History is not written in ink. It is written in fire, in blood, and in the choices of men who refuse to kneel. For centuries, Africa had been plundered, partitioned, and pushed aside. Its people scattered, its resources stolen, its voice drowned out beneath the roar of foreign powers. But history does not move in one direction, and silence, no matter how long, can end in a single breath. This is the story of a continent's awakening, and of one young leader who stood before empires and declared an ultimatum: change or burn. The birth of a voice. The world had grown accustomed to dismissing Africa as weak, divided, powerless. But within the shadows of corruption and colonial scars, a new voice rose. He was not born into power. He was not shaped by privilege. His childhood was marked by hardship, by the weight of poverty, by the sting of injustice. He had seen his village thirst while foreign companies drained rivers to mine diamonds. He had seen farmers starve while land fertile enough to feed millions was stolen for export crops. He had buried friends who had died not from war, but from the indifference of systems designed to keep them broken. And in the furnace of that suffering, something unbreakable formed. When he first spoke, it was in small gatherings. His voice shook, but his words carried fire. He spoke of dignity, of unity, of freedom. And people listened, because in his voice they heard not politics, but themselves. The rise of the young leader. From village meetings, to towns, to cities, his words spread. He refused bribes. He exposed corruption. He demanded accountability where none had ever been demanded. Soon the people made a choice. They carried him to power, not through the machinery of foreign influence, but through the raw strength of unity. The youngest head of state in modern Africa, unknown to the world but undeniable to his people, and from the moment he stepped into office, he carried one truth in his heart. Africa could no longer survive by begging. It must demand. The files that changed everything. One night, in a locked chamber beneath the Capitol, his intelligence chiefs placed a stack of documents before him. Leaked contracts, secret deals, memos signed in the dark. They revealed how his nation, and all of Africa, had been carved open like a carcass, oil stolen, minerals sold for cents, leaders bribed, wars fueled by foreign hands, all for profit. The young leader read every page. His hands trembled, his face hardened, and when he looked up, he whispered, "The world must see this." What followed was one of the largest leaks in history. The leak that shook the world overnight. Newspapers from New York to London, from Paris to Beijing, carried headlines of betrayal. Secret files reveal exploitation of Africa. Western powers accused of resource theft. Billions lost to corruption and collusion. The world gasped. African citizens seethed. Protests erupted across capitals. For the first time, the invisible chains of exploitation were visible to all. Foreign governments scrambled. They denied. They attacked the source. But the documents were undeniable, and at the center of the storm stood the young leader, calm and unflinching. The ultimatum weeks later, he took the stage at the Pan-African Parliament. The hall was silent. Cameras broadcast his face to every corner of the globe. He began slowly, his voice steady. For centuries, Africa has been robbed. Our gold, our oil, our diamonds, our people. Today we say, no more. He held up a copy of the leaked files. His hand did not shake. We have given you proof of your crimes. You have taken our resources, divided our lands, enslaved our children, and now you will give us justice. Then came the words that froze the world. You have 30 days. 30 days to return what you stole. 30 days to respect our sovereignty. 30 days to sign fair trade. Or face the fire of 1 billion people. Gasps rippled through the chamber. Foreign embassies scrambled to report home. In capitals thousands of miles away, governments sat in stunned silence. An ultimatum had been delivered. The countdown begins. The first day passed with disbelief. An empty threat, analysts sneered on Western television. A stunt, nothing more. But on the streets of Africa, something extraordinary was happening. From Lagos to Nairobi, from Cairo to Cape Town, millions gathered. They painted walls with the words 30 days. They chanted, Africa will rise. Every day closer to the deadline, The crowds grew larger. Every speech, every rally, every chant carried the weight of history. Foreign powers, once dismissive, now began to worry, because this was no longer just one man. It was a continent. Global panic behind closed doors. Panic spread. In Washington, Paris, London, emergency meetings stretched into the night. Advisors warned, if Africa unites under him, our influence is finished. In boardrooms of oil companies, CEOs demanded, shut him down, now. Spy agencies drafted plans, bribes, blackmail, assassination. Anything to silence the ultimatum before the clock ran out. But the world was watching, and the young leader knew it. The first attempts on the 10th day, a convoy was ambushed. On the 14th, a bomb was found beneath a stage. On the 18th, poison slipped into a dinner plate. Each time he survived. His guards grew restless. His advisors begged him to flee, but he refused. If I fall, another will rise. The ultimatum is bigger than me. And the people believed him. The coup that failed. On the 22nd day, tanks rolled toward the palace. Soldiers paid in foreign currency had been promised power if they removed him. But when they arrived, they found not fear, but resistance. Tens of thousands had flooded the streets, unarmed but unmovable. They linked arms around the palace. They chanted, "You touch him, you touch all of us." The coup collapsed before dawn. And in that moment, the world understood. This was no longer politics. This was destiny. The final week. As the deadline loomed, the world held its breath. Would the ultimatum be carried out? Would Africa ignite? Foreign leaders called for negotiations. Sanctions were threatened. But behind every closed-door meeting was one simple truth. The young leader had forced the world to listen. The final attempt. On the 29th day, at a rally of hundreds of thousands, a gunman pushed through the crowd. Shots rang out. Panic erupted. For a heartbeat, the world thought it was over. But when the dust cleared, he still stood. His guards lay bleeding at his feet, martyrs who had thrown themselves in front of the bullets. And when he raised his hand, alive, unbroken, the roar of the people shook the earth. The ultimatum had survived. Day 30. The world holds its breath. Dawn broke heavy with silence. In the cities of Africa, millions filled the streets, eyes fixed on giant screens. In the halls of power across the West, leaders waited, hearts pounding behind calm faces. Would he act? Or had it all been a bluff? The young leader stepped onto a stage in front of a crowd so vast, drones capturing the moment could not see its end. He raised his hands, and silence fell. 30 days have passed. The time of begging is over. The time of taking is over. Today, the age of justice begins. The words echoed like thunder. The shockwave. Within hours, Africa's ports, mines, and oil wells were locked. Exports to foreign companies were frozen. Armies secured borders. National banks seized accounts tied to corruption. Billions of dollars evaporated from foreign stock markets. Panic swept through boardrooms and banks. News anchors screamed headlines. Global markets crash as Africa shuts doors. The ultimatum is real. A new world order? But for Africa's streets, it was jubilation. For the first time in centuries, the world was forced to bow to their timing. The retaliation. The empire does not surrender quietly. Cyber attacks surged against African infrastructure. Power grids failed. Banks froze. Planes were grounded. Anonymous sources confirmed. Foreign governments had unleashed the full weight of their covert war machine. But Africa was not alone. Hackers from Asia, from Latin America, from forgotten corners of the world joined in solidarity. Screens across the globe lit up with a single phrase, "Africa will not kneel." The digital battlefield was alive, and for once, Africa did not fight alone. The Shadow War. In the deserts, foreign mercenaries were deployed. In the jungles, old proxy militias were rearmed. Sabotage spread. But each time, something unexpected happened. Local communities, once divided, now united. They guarded pipelines. They defended railways. They exposed traitors. It was as if the ultimatum had lit a fire in every heart, transforming ordinary people into guardians of a dream. The Great Speech at the United Nations. With the world in chaos, the young leader traveled to New York. Cameras flashed. Security was doubled. Some whispered he would never leave alive. He entered the United Nations chamber, and silence followed him like a shadow. He stood at the podium and spoke not just for Africa, but for the entire global South. You called us poor, yet it was our gold that built your banks, our oil that fueled your wars, our diamonds that crowned your queens. You called us weak, yet we survived centuries of your chains, and now we rise, not to beg, not to borrow, but to demand justice. Thunderous applause erupted from delegations long silenced by fear. The old order shifted on its axis. The assassination attempt in New York, but power never surrenders. That night, as his convoy drove through Manhattan, an explosion ripped through the street. Glass shattered. Flames erupted. For minutes, the world thought it was over. News channels cut to chaos. But out of the smoke, his car emerged, armored, untouched. And when he stepped out, he raised a fist to the cameras. The world roared. The ultimatum lived. The turning point. By now, Africa's stance had inspired revolts across Latin America, strikes across Asia, protests in Europe. Ordinary people, long crushed by debt and inequality, raised banners with a single word: ultimatum. It had become more than Africa's fight. It was humanity's. Foreign powers found themselves cornered. Every sanction, every threat, every bullet only strengthened his image. The young leader had become what empires feared most: a symbol. The betrayal within. But symbols also attract shadows. Inside his own government, whispers grew. Some feared economic collapse. Others, hungry for foreign money, plotted behind his back. A leaked recording revealed ministers negotiating with Western envoys, offering to sell out the ultimatum in exchange for power. When the recording surfaced, the streets erupted in fury. Crowds surrounded Parliament, demanding traitors resign. The young leader addressed the nation with fire in his voice. We did not come this far to betray ourselves. Let it be known, those who kneel to foreign masters will be remembered as enemies of the people. The purge was swift. The movement survived. The countdown continues. Beyond 30 days. Though the initial deadline had passed, the ultimatum was not over. Instead, it became rolling. Demands extended, contracts rewritten, borders secured. Every month, another demand was enforced. Stolen money repatriated, corporations taxed fairly, military bases closed. Each step shook the global order further. The seeds of a new alliance. Across Africa, leaders once skeptical began to rally behind him. The African Union, long mocked as toothless, suddenly found purpose. Trade routes reopened between neighbors. A single digital currency was proposed. Farmers received direct support. Schools were built not by foreign loans but by redirected wealth. And for the first time, a child in a forgotten village could open a book that said, "You are not powerless, you are Africa." The second ultimatum. To the world. Months later, he addressed the world again. We gave you 30 days. You laughed, you sabotaged, you tried to kill me. Yet here we stand. Africa is not broken. Africa is unshaken. So hear me now. This is our second ultimatum. Not 30 days, not 60, but permanent. Either you walk with us as equals, or you will watch your empires crumble without us. The chamber erupted. Some cheered. Some walked out. But no one could ignore him. The ultimatum had become eternal. The global counterattack. The old powers were cornered, and cornered beasts are the most dangerous. Sanctions tightened. Shipping lanes were blockaded. Foreign militaries circled Africa's coasts. Rumors spread of invasions prepared in secret. But the young leader was not naive. He had studied the fate of others who dared to resist. He knew Gaddafi's end, Sankara's betrayal, Lumumba's murder. This time, Africa would not be caught unprepared. Alliances were forged with nations once considered distant. New trade corridors opened eastward, southward, across oceans ignored by empires. Energy flowed not through Western banks but through new channels. The empire tried to suffocate Africa. Instead, Africa learned to breathe differently. The People's Shield. When threats of invasion grew louder, something extraordinary happened. Across the continent, millions volunteered. Farmers laid down plows, students left classrooms, workers abandoned factories, not to wage war abroad, but to form a living shield around their homelands. Every city became a fortress of spirit, every village a watchtower, every family a declaration: if you come for one, you come for all. The young leader, standing before a sea of millions, declared, "We do not seek war, but if you bring it, you will not fight an army. You will fight a people who have nothing left to fear." The silent collapse. Behind the scenes, cracks spread through the empire. Debt ballooned. Citizens in Western cities protested skyrocketing prices, demanding their governments stop meddling abroad. Soldiers questioned orders. Some refused deployment. The ultimatum had done what no war could. It exposed the fragility of giants. For centuries, they had ruled by fear. Now, for the first time, they were the ones afraid. The assassins in the dark. Twice more, attempts were made on his life. Once with poison in his tea. Once with a sniper's bullet that barely missed. Each failure only strengthened the myth. Whispers spread that destiny itself protected him. Children painted his face on walls. Elders spoke his name in prayers. Musicians sang anthems of the ultimatum. He had ceased to be a man. He was now a movement. The vision. In his final great speech, he spoke not of enemies, but of a future. The ultimatum is not revenge. It is not hatred. It is not Africa against the world. It is justice against injustice, humanity against greed, life against death. We rise not to destroy, but to rebuild. He laid out a vision of railways linking deserts to oceans, of digital networks connecting villages to skyscrapers, of hospitals where none had stood before, of schools alive with light. And he ended with words that would echo for generations. History gave us chains. We return history a key. The legacy. The ultimatum did not end in a single victory, nor in a single defeat. It became something greater, a living current that reshaped the world. Africa did not suddenly become perfect. There were struggles, betrayals, setbacks. But the line had been drawn. Never again would the continent accept chains disguised as contracts, or masters disguised as partners. And across the globe, others followed. Nations once silent now spoke with thunder. People once hopeless now dreamed with fire. The ultimatum had lit a torch, and its flames spread far beyond the borders of one land. History is not written in ink. It is written in fire. And in that fire, a new chapter began. A young leader dared to defy the world, and the world changed forever. The ultimatum was not 30 days. It was not 30 years. It was eternal. And its echo still shakes the earth.